And welcome. Very happy to be joined by the field coordinator for the Los Angeles Angels minor league system, Chad Tracy, and a good friend and former manager of the Inland Empire 66ers. And Trace, obviously, these are odd times, scary times, unprecedented times, but thank you for taking some time to join us and kind of talk about the system and the memories with the 66ers and catch up.
Oh, no doubt. Thank you for having me. And like you said, use the word time a lot, as it is very unprecedented times. And ordinarily, I'd be somewhere watching a ball game right now. But one thing a lot of us have right now is time, because we're sitting here hanging and riding it out. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Well, this would be right around when you guys are closing in on breaking camp and getting the minor leaguers out to their affiliates, the full season affiliates, and obviously that is on hiatus as we all just play the waiting game. But from your standpoint, I mean, it does seem a little odd to talk about it, but how was camp going? I mean, obviously, I know that there, with every camp, every player comes in with their own kind of issues. They're on the rise, or they're coming back from an injury, or they're trying to maybe make a club and things like that. And you guys were right in the thick of that. But how was it going?
It was going great, honestly. To be completely fair, we hadn't even from the minor league side, we hadn't even gotten into the full swing of quite a few things from early starting pitchers type camp, and we had our mini camp. Obviously, the players that go over and JIC, and that was underway and rolling well. We had gotten through pitchers and catchers, and everything had gone extremely well, and was very, very happy with that. And the goal obviously is whenever we get back together, whenever that may be, is to kind of pick up where we left off.
It is interesting how those camps work, because you think of, back in the day, get in shape at camp, and you need to come to camp in shape physically, but there is the building up process, correct?
Yeah. Oh, that's no question. Yeah, I think over the course of years, the whole concept of spring training definitely has changed. I think it used to be a little bit longer, and it used to be used to get in shape. And I think over the last 20 years, maybe even a little more, players arrive to spring training in shape, and it's more used for game reps and preparation. So yeah, I mean, I think most if not all of our players come in very good shape and ready to go, and allows us as a staff to kind of hit the ground running with fundamentals and bullpens and teaching points, and not having to kind of ease in. I mean, you still have an element of easing into it since you haven't had your hands on them, but for the most part, you hit the ground running. So that's kind of where the state of spring training has gotten to, and it's kind of nice. I think players are very accountable to their career, and they want to come in and make an impression, like you just mentioned. There are guys that come in knowing they're coming in to make a club, and they want to be ready for that. So
Now, for fans who don't know, the field coordinator, that is a job that, it's not like you're just trying to figure out what team's going to go play on what field. You're kind of the guy that's on top of the umbrella and making sure that all the instruction is happening, all the players are where they need to be. And I would think that is, I don't know, is that more daunting in spring training when they're all under one roof, or is that tougher when you're sitting in front of a computer screen and guys are in far-flung places across the country?
I think it's each of them has their own challenges. Let's put it that way. I think yes, there's an element of everybody being under one roof that is nice, but that being said, you still have 215 bodies that you got to navigate around 4 fields at different times. So fortunately, I have an incredible working staff with me. Not only the fellow coordinators, but our coaching staff, the people we brought in. They're hard workers. They understand, the day-to-day operation. We had very little turnover in our staff this year, so a lot of those guys are doing it for the second time. They kind of understand what we're going for, so that makes it easy when you have people working around you that know what you're trying to get out of something. But yeah, certainly when the season begins, and now those 200 players spread out over 7 locations, and it's it's incumbent upon you to stay up to speed with what all of those guys are doing. It's not always easy, but it's part of the job. So each one of those different situations presents its own unique challenges, I would say.
Well, you brought the 66er skipper from the last two seasons up into the top of the tower there with you, Ryan Barba, now an assistant field coordinator, and the 66ers are expecting a new manager, Jack Santora, this season. And when we can get some action going, we expect to see Jack, who's a California native. What can you tell fans and 66ers fans to expect with Jack?
You can expect an incredible amount of high energy. He is one of the most positive and energetic people that I've ever been around. It'll be a rarity to find him get into a mode where he, where you see him down in the dumps or negative about anything. This guy brings it every single day. He's always got a smile on his face. He knows the game. You can look up his resume. He's been around the game of baseball for a long time, played for a long time, has now been our system for the last 4 years or so. I think that's the biggest thing that sticks out to me, and fans will notice that quickly is what joy this guy brings to his job on a daily basis.
So, well, we got a guest here. It's our this is called quarantine interviewing, where your 3-year-old comes in. And how are your little ones, for fans who don't know? Chad's got 2 little ones, and
mine is in bed right now. Otherwise, he'd probably be doing the same thing. That's the only time I can recall being at home at all, when the calendar turned April. So it's unique for sure. But that being said, not a good situation. A lot of people out there are going through a lot. So we're mostly confined to the home like everybody else, but I got 2 beautiful children and my wife that I'm spending time with a few less distractions than usual, and I'm trying to soak that up as well.
it is we're all kind of in unusual footing right now, but like I said, this is the type of time where typically you would be sending guys out to the different affiliates, and there's some interesting players in the Angel system right now, and there's a few guys that have come through the 66ers that now look like they're about to maybe make that push to be knocking on the door at the big league club. And obviously Joe Adele is the top name when it comes to that, and deservedly so. But there's another player that is starting to get a lot of heat, is Brandon Marsh. And Brandon, obviously, he got hurt when he sent him over to big league camp. You did. It was your fault. When he went over to big league camp. But actually, one of the final days of spring training before it was shut down, Brandon was getting back into live BP and getting ready to go. He's an interesting player, and he's one that I think has been a fast riser after some adjustments have been made. What is the difference between Brandon Marsh a year ago to now?
Well, he's always been an incredible athlete. You know that as well as I do. Like football background, speed, good throwing arm. Great runner, runs great routes, good base runner, runs with his hair on fire. He makes good decisions. He just does so many things that like you said, that stick out on a baseball field and scream like, wow, like look at what an athlete this guy is. So that being said, he's always had a tremendous eye for the strike zone. His knowledge of the zone and his decision making in the batter's box has always been one of the best in our entire system. So he has so many things going for him, and made some adjustments a year ago to get himself a little bit more upright. Some of the power, specifically in the second half of the season in Mobile, some of the power started to show up. So, and then continued and took that into the fall league with him, and it continued to show up there. So, rightfully so that people are excited about him. The tools that we talked about have always been there. And then some of the things that we believe he can do in the box started to show up towards the latter part of last year. And we were all very excited, and we are still very excited to see this guy perform at some point this year, God willing that happens. So everybody's excited about him, and they should be. But we're going to continue to push him along in the right direction, give him all the tools we have, and just let him develop at his own pace.
A player that also hasn't been to Inland Empire yet, and it seemed like he's ticketed for that as a pitcher, and Hector Yan. And it's always tough when you're kind of a level above. You're keeping an eye on the lower levels, but you're kind of trying to keep track of what's in front of you. So every once in a while you look at the stats and things like that, and it seemed like this Yan kid was always putting up good numbers, but then you started seeing absolute domination of the Midwest League. And I know he got into some big league games, or at least one this spring. What can 66ers fans expect if indeed he does come to the Empire?
Yeah, he ends up there. A big, powerful left-handed arm. He did. I think it was one game in big league camp. I think he registered a couple strikeouts, so he got a little bit of a taste of the highest level of baseball at a very young age. You're, like you said, you're talking about a guy that didn't pitch above low A ball last year and went out there and was all around the strike zone. So big, powerful left-handed arm, hard thrower, can throw the ball up in the zone. He generates swing and miss with it, and he's got a good breaking ball. He's just a power stuff and generates a lot of swing and miss and weak contact with it. So if in fact he ends up in Inland Empire, he's very, very exciting to watch. He's very exciting to watch when he's out on the mound, and he's made incredible. I think the biggest thing with Yanni is he's made incredible strides. The year prior he spent in Orem, he went on and off dealing with different things, and his entire mentality about the way he went about his business is what was the most noticeable. Obviously the results were there. But this guy flicked a switch last year and decided that he wants to be a good pitcher and a good baseball player, and it showed up, and he has all the ability to do so. So really excited about him for sure.
There was a stretch, and I don't think it's a secret, that the Angels chain had been pretty thin with overall talent, difference-making talent. And slowly but surely under Billy Epler's reign, if you will, we're starting to see, I think, more talent getting influxed in. But there was that lag time, and it seemed like if a guy had a good 2 or 3 weeks, he was getting rushed up to the next level because simply there was just kind of that void, if you will. It seems like now that the Taylor Wards and the Matt Theises and the Joe Adells and the Brandon Marshes are starting to kind of establish that cream rising to the top, that to me seems like it will then funnel down into a sense that guys will get more and more time to develop, and there'll be more and more competition, if you will. Is that fair?
Oh, I think no question that happens organically, kind of on its own. You're not wrong. You and I were together in 2016 when Billy had just come into the organization, and we weren't in a good way back in 2015 and 16, and everybody knows that. And you can't change something like that overnight. It's impossible. It's you got 200 players, and one draft isn't going to change that. But between Billy's philosophy and Matt Swanson and Rick Wilson, all of our area scouts, it starts there. The people that they've brought into the door, high upside, highly athletic, skilled players, like you mentioned, the Joe Adells and the Brandon Marshes and the Jordan Adams and the Kyron Parises of the world, fast, strong athletes. That has slowly changed the fabric of our system, and it's pretty exciting to be a part of it, and it's exciting to be around here now. And I think that as that continues to unfold, yes, it absolutely creates competition, and yes, it absolutely forces you to perform better, to make moves, because naturally when that starts to happen, if it continues to happen, you're going to end up with players in front of you that are very good baseball players too. And I can speak on that from my days. I was in Texas's system when we had the #1 farm system in all of baseball, and we had some guys that were really, really good players, and they ended up hanging out in a location for a period of time because there were some really, really good players in front of them. So that's what you're trying to build. You're trying to build an organization where you have elite level talent across your entire organization, where you can give guys the opportunity to develop at their own pace and then climb the ladder. So I think we already over the last year or so have started to direction and seen more of that. And I think, like you said at the top, you and I have known each other now for 5 years, and I think you've started to see what from 16 to now 2020, how this organization has changed.
You mentioned Jordan Adams, and he's another, I would think, likely candidate to be in the Inland Empire when it's all said and done. He got a nice little couple-week stint at the end of last year. I love that. And for fans who didn't get a chance to see, Jordan is a former first-round pick. And like Trace said, very athletic. And you can still see very much a rawness to his game, or at least we could at the end of last season. But I love the late season promotion of guys for that little couple weeks at the end of a season where everyone's kind of, to be honest, trudging through, trying to finish the season. Guys are talking about fishing and getting home and things like that. But to give a prospect that little kind of jolt to re-energize them and get them up to the next level, to me, is such a great tool for a player development department.
I think it re-energizes the ball club that he's going to as well. Yeah. First and foremost, like Jordan performed well. He earned it. It wasn't just here, go up for a couple weeks, right? Like he had a rough start to the season and figured some things out, and then slowly and methodically just chipped away at the Midwest League and got himself into a very respectable territory and played very well for a period of time. So he earned it. But I'm sure it energized him to get to the next level of baseball and see, okay, everybody gets a little bit better here. And I think it also, you're right, I think it energizes the club to say, like, hey, here comes a fresh face, a new player that's a good one, a very good athlete, and they get to watch him perform. And so I think it has a lot of benefits to do that, not only for his energy level, but to give that player a little bit of a taste as to what's next. And you get that little honeymoon phase, if you will, out of the way, so you don't have to deal with that in the future. So he earned it, and he, like you said, he had a few growing pains in his couple weeks there, but he also did some things. I watched some of the games on my iPad here, and he did some really exciting things. So excited he got that chance, and excited to watch him this year at some point.
So kind of wrapping it up, it is everything's speculative these days. We're in that phase, unfortunately, and it's a little unnerving. But when the powers that be, when we get the decisions made, the all clear and it's safe to gather again and play. In an ideal world, I would assume that the players will have to almost start a spring training again, if you will. And is that something you've heard? Or anticipate in your experience, I should say.
I haven't heard that, and I'm glad you used that word at the top. It would be purely speculative at this point. I think there's just no telling. There's no telling how long this will take, how long this could drag out. And really commenting on it at this point would be challenging to know. I mean, you'd have to know when it would be to have any idea of how long you would need. So honestly, the most of what we're hearing right now is applauding pharmacists, nurses, doctors, and everybody else that's out on the front lines of this thing, fighting it. And really that's the extent of what we're talking about right now. And we haven't gone any further than that. And until we get more information down the line, I think we're still a little ways from that. It's not really productive from our standpoint on with our coordinators and everything to start making any type of plans, because there's no telling right now. All
right. Well, Trace, it's good to see you. Can't wait again to when we're all in a better place and can shake hands again and say hello in person.
I look forward to it, Steve. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, that's of course Chad Tracy, field coordinator for the Los Angeles Angels, and we thank him for spending some time with me and my daughter Grace, age 3. Trace, great to see you. Thanks so much.
You too. I'll talk to you soon.